What do you do when the world gets you down? You realize this is not the only world. And this awareness makes all the difference in the world.
Well, hello there, USU family. I am so excited. I told you I was going to bring Suzanne back. Suzanne, thank you for coming back on the show and just bringing your wisdom, your energy, your brilliance. I'm so excited.
Oh gosh, Julie. Well, I give all credit to Spirit, so I've invited my team to talk with me and through me, and it's always fun to see where this goes.
I feel the same because I have a sense and I also don't. And that's kind of the joy of honestly letting spirit take the reins, take the wheel. We're like, yeah, yeah, I'm just going to flow as we go. Oh my gosh. Well, the last time we met, we talked about the book that had come out then, your book, The Awakened Way, and got a lot of beautiful comments and questions, and just it sparked quite a bit of, I feel like, hearts opening and realizing there's so much more going on than what we see with our eyes. And I am really excited. I'll hold it up if for anyone who is watching, we have a beautiful community on YouTube. I know some people listen, but I love this book, your newest book, Mediumship. I love that common sentience, by the way, sacred communications with loved ones from across the veil. And, we met a little over a year ago because I did both of your mediumship, I think 1 and 2 courses in person, and honestly found it to be, I always say here, mind glowing. It's not, I don't want my mind to be blown. So
I love that.
it glowed my mind. And I just thought we could chat a little bit, for someone who is dabbling or knows a little bit about mediumship, just to talk about, like, let's start with this book, because you've written many, many books. To talk about this book, how it came about. I mean, there's some beautiful stories. I mean, I was like crying reading this.
Yeah.
Just I'll let you take it from here, kind of what instigated, the impetus
Yes.
behind that book.
Yes, I was approached by Ariel Patricia, the publisher of Sacred Stories Publishing. And she's done a lot of books, but she has a series called Common Sentience. You mentioned those 2 words, and people might not know what you were talking about. But this series is very unique. She had a vision, and I may be partially incorrect about this, but the main point that I remember is she wanted a kind of sort of Chicken Series of the Soul type book for spiritual topics. And the Common Sentience series does that, but it's not just stories. What I love about this series is every book follows the same format. So I kind of like a predictable book. And each of these books has a 1-word title about different spiritual topics. And this one is mediumship, but other books are nature and angels and God Talk. That's Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote Conversations with God. So she has some big name authors, experts in the topic of each specific book. And she reached out to me to cover this topic of exactly what the subtitle is: Sacred Communication with Loved Ones Across the Veil. And the format is part 1, part 2, part 3. The first part is the basics, the foundations. What is mediumship? Who can do it? Why do we want to do it? How does it work? That kind of thing. Part 2 are the stories that you just pick up and put down. You could read them straight through, but this is a keep by the side of your bed book, or pick up anytime you need to be inspired and or reminded who we really are, with other people's stories of what I call no other explanation moments. So I got to contribute 2 of my favorite mediumship stories, but there are 30 different, sometimes first-time authors, regular people who have had no other explanation moments from across the veil. And I'd like to talk more about that part later. And then part 3 is practices so that you, the reader, can do and apply to have your own sacred communications with loved ones across the veil. So it's just a wonderful format that really helps people totally dive into the topic of mediumship. But even if you don't ever intend to be a medium, you can learn and be inspired by the other people's stories.
Beautiful. Let's dive in a little bit let's start with mediumship. Since we're talking about mediumship, one of the things, what I remembered from both of the classes with you, this is one of the things I loved, is you drew in people with all different experiences and backgrounds and walks of life, and some who'd felt I could do this and some who'd never done it. And, and I think to maybe level set for anybody, first of all, your story, if anyone's new to you, your story, maybe to just, you did not start up as a medium. And I'm always just enamored with your story because it really found you. That was not something you weren't thinking you were going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just would love for you to talk a little bit about getting into it yourself, but also how this really is for anybody.
I feel that my background is a huge part of my current path. Obviously part of a soul's plan. I mean, 20 years as a Navy officer, retiring as a Navy commander, serving at the highest rank, the highest level of the U.S. military as a commanding officer, a special assistant to the head of the Navy, and then aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the head of the whole military. That sets the stage for many of my students who come from corporate jobs or scientific backgrounds or highly skeptical backgrounds, but something in them, like me, just lets us know, wait, maybe there is more to this. I want to know more, but I don't want to talk to somebody woo-woo. I'm woo-woo now. The woo-woo is relative, is what I say. I help people embrace this no matter what walk of life you're from. And as you said, I never expected this. I'm not what people call a born medium. I didn't see spirits my whole life. I wasn't spiritual my whole life. And so now I've completely gone in a different direction from the past, yet still embrace my past. I can turn the commander on in a moment if you want to, see her. But I've learned to balance the left side of my brain with the right side and open up to this whole other world that's right here. And that's available for anyone. That's the joy of this work.
What I love so much about what you're saying, Suzanne, and what I experienced firsthand is, the idea that we're all connected, obviously. And sometimes it can seem like a tough one to get because we all look different, have different unique aspects. But the idea that spirit is here for all of us because we're all from it. We're all of it. And, I know you talk about, and I learned from you some of the techniques. I was going to talk about the bless me. Maybe we could go through that. And just, I feel like for those listening who tend to tune in, it's like, what can I do? How do I amp up? That's the question I get a lot. How do I amp up my antenna? How do I know it's not just my brain saying something? Like, how do I actually make that connection? And you and I actually, when we were talking before we started recording, and I think you said this, like, it's because of spirit. Like, thank you to spirit. That is how I have this connection. It comes through you. And anyhow, you have so many beautiful ways of teaching this, but I think it's important for anyone listening to know, if you desire to do this, you can do this. This is for any human being.
Yes, and as you said, there are practices we can do. And what I've learned is what's important is it's a combination of how to do the practices, but why those practices are important. It's not just in what we do, but it's in shifting our awareness of why and how they work. Because we actually, in the end, don't have to do anything. It's about undoing our identification with being only human.
Let's say more. Yeah, let's, I'm like, yes, that is like buzzing. Please say more about that.
Well, let's go through the major practice. You said, like, maybe we can go through your bless me. And people said, what? That is an acronym, bless me, for a 7-step method that helps people go from normal waking consciousness to the optimal state of consciousness for connecting with higher consciousness. Loved ones who have passed, our guides, spirit in any form. The Bless Me method is a practice where each of the 7 steps starts with one of those letters. And it's available, if this is too brief and too short, in the book, The Awakened Way. It's also available as a gift on my website on the gifts page at SuzanneGiesemann.com. It's also on YouTube, so I freely share it. But it's my process that I've taught, tens of thousands of people, and it works. So in a nutshell, the B stands for breathe, with the purpose of slowing down your brain waves, all automatically making a shift from busy monkey mind to slower, quieter, but receptive, flowing state of consciousness. And the specific types of breath that we take are in the book and in the video. The very slow and deliberate breath that basically aims to drop you into an alpha brainwave state, which is slower, more focused. Then the L stands for lift your vibration, which is any series of things you can do, practices you can do to shine your light brighter. This is a very brief introduction, but the quickest way to do that is to bring to mind something that you're grateful for. Gratitude shifts what you're radiating to the universe, keeping in mind that we're not only human, we are beings of consciousness, fields of energy and information, and we need to vibrate at a higher frequency to tap into the higher frequencies of those in the non-physical world. So yes, we slow down our breath, but science has proven that as our brain waves slow down, our human energy field increases. So those two actually work in tandem. So breathe slowly and then lift your vibration with gratitude. That's the quickest. There are many other ways. The first E in Bless Me stands for expand your human energy field. It's already limitless. You are both this spherical, non-physical field of energy information, but where does light begin and end? It's limitless. So in that awareness, we take in a deep breath and we expand our field to fill all of creation. It's a metaphor, it's a visual, but it just helps us realize as beings of light, we already are everywhere, limitless, boundless. This opens us up to the awareness that we can tap into any other field of energy information as part of one shared sea of consciousness. Lots of metaphors flowing around here. That's the preparatory stage. The first S in Bless Me, in order to connect with higher consciousness, this is key. It stands for surrender. And what are we surrendering? Our belief that I'm only human, our identity as a body and a person in a body. We surrender that identity. You could also say the S stands for set aside, set the ego identity aside. To what? To simply being consciousness. I am. So how does this stage work? You simply say, silently or aloud, I surrender. And that's just filled with so much intention to just be. And then the second S is shift. We shift our identity to a limitless soul, connected to all that is. You can literally picture yourself as this limited human who suddenly shifts and rises higher in this spiritual elevator to connect with higher consciousness. There are so many tools. This is why the course is, a couple of days long. We really dive into this. But I literally say shift, and I go to a higher realm in my mind. This step is where the rubber meets the road. This is equivalent to picking up a remote control and changing the TV channel. You're shifting from communicating with others in a physical body like we normally do to being able to communicate with a different channel, depending on who you want to communicate with. Loved ones who have passed from their bodies are one channel. Guides are another channel. It's all one spectrum of energy information. We're all light beings. Even though we're in a body now, we're all beings of light. But our intention shifts the channel to exactly who we want to communicate with. And then the M and the E, this is where it all takes place. The M stands for merge, recognizing that we're all limitless consciousness and also at the same time beings of light with our own unique frequency, patterns of energy information. We invite another field of energy information, be it a guide, be it a loved one who has passed, to merge with us in awareness. I say, step in or come now into awareness, or let's dance or let's flow now. And that simply is an invitation for our energy fields to connect. Do they actually move and step in? Maybe within the time-space continuum that we're part of, they do, but outside of space and time, it's just a connection. It just happens instantaneously outside of time. And then the final E is experience whatever is in the greatest and highest good and happens as a result of BLESSM and now E. So whatever your intention was for doing this practice, was it to connect with a loved one? Was it to ask your guides a question? Was it to be open to whatever is in your greatest and highest good? Now's where you just listen and watch with your eyes closed. Whatever happens, and you just remain aware and notice and then engage whatever happens. You can sit back passively, but if somebody shows up, wouldn't you want to talk with them? Yeah. So experience and engage. Who are you? Why are you here? What do you have to tell me? What do I need to know right now? Slowly, interactively, with curiosity, a willingness to play and learn and grow and have amazing adventures in consciousness.
Voila. There we go. I think it's so amazing to me. A couple things that even in this example, that I could see some people really like the part around surrender, really surrendering your ego. It's funny because I use this method not just when I'm playing, and I think of it as playing, like wanting to dial up whoever would like to hang with me if I'm talking to someone else. I use this, Suzanne, and it can be used, I really believe, if I'm teaching, when I do interviews, anytime to be a channel, to be connected. And this surrendering, I just, something about that kind of shined bright for me, surrendering the idea that we're not just human, that we are light. This is important because many people it's very easy to get stuck in the thinking that we're just human, and it's not true.
They can. And this comes with a caveat that there is a small percentage of people that really don't resonate with that term surrender. It brings fear. I might disappear. Well, you won't, and that's what you discover. The story of you, which is very real, and it's what your soul is, it's the vehicle through which your soul is experiencing this lifetime, will always be here, even after the body dies. You find that out by being willing to say, I surrender. But some people have been abused and they feel that that's opening themselves up to something. I can't surrender. I can't let down my guard. That is a beautiful opportunity to look at that and say, wow, that is part of my story too. So for now, you can just say, set aside my identity, like I said, if that feels softer to you. And then ask your guides, help me root out whatever is causing me fear around this. It's a win-win proposition.
Yeah. Oh, I love that option. If surrender doesn't work for you, if you're listening, set aside. Like, I love that other way of looking at it. That's powerful. Something, in terms of, because I was reading through many of the stories in this book. I mean, to me, it's just, it's so fun. It's just so fun to hear.
The Mediumship book?
The Mediumship book. Yeah. I'll show it again. There, your story, and then you have all these incredible stories. Some of the people you said, not mediums, some are.
That's what I wanted to talk about when I said earlier, there's something I want to say about that. The publisher reached out to anybody that wanted to submit books, stories, and she got hundreds of contributions. And luckily, she and her staff selected the stories. I didn't. She just gave me the final selection and I approved them. But one thing that I had to address in the book is that I was trained in traditional mediumship, which is one-on-one readings where you bring through evidence from those across the veil, and you act as the intermediary for somebody who doesn't currently connect. That's what I considered mediumship. But truly, mediumship is simply whatever shows the continuity of consciousness, that we don't die with the death of the body. And so most of the stories in the book, other than my two, which tell stories of actual one-on-one traditional mediumistic readings, all the rest fall under the category of what I call in this book in part 1, ADCs, after death communications. So they consist of signs and synchronicities and personal interactions with the storyteller's own loved ones. That is also mediumship. So you can see how this book applies on multiple levels, but all of it under the umbrella of sacred communications with loved ones across the veil, our own and others.
So I got like chills,
I just
goosebumps.
picked up on those.
Woo! I don't know what's happening, but I felt when you said that, I'm the people, our beautiful community that listens to this now or whenever, we're getting a lot of comments from your other interview as well. And around, I'm getting these signs, and I really recommend everybody, like, seriously, you've got to read this because there's so much in here. But I will say, and the stories are just so delicious. They're fun.
When I got the rough draft of all of them, I would read one at a time, and my husband Ty would be across the room, and I'd say, "Oh my God, Ty, you have to hear this story." It was that kind of book, and I got so excited because you have to celebrate these. These are universal experiences that people can relate to, but may not have had. But they also cause us to say, "I would love to have experiences like that." Hearing other people's stories opens us to the greater possibility of having similar experiences ourselves. That's another benefit of a book like this.
And that is partially why, I always love talking to you. I thought we have to talk about this because I think it raises the confidence level, perhaps. I don't know that for sure, but I can feel that when you hear somebody who wasn't necessarily trained like you, there was the story, I'm like, oh my gosh, how did her grandmother and great aunt tip over the balloons and they had that yellow balloon? I was like, how does that happen? But these things that happen that may not be in the traditional sense that you were talking about, I've got a list of them. I was thinking, oh my gosh, I need to, and I encourage probably anyone to write these things down. But this, it's such a beautiful reminder that it's like proof, Suzanne, we're not just this human. We're not our body, actually. We're not.
Well, see, this is the thing, Julie. I, these days, don't want to be known only as a medium. I am here, my path is to teach people who we really are, the awakened way of living. As a spiritual teacher who just happens to use mediumship as that proof. It backs up the fact that we're not only human. There are other ways to do that, but I can't imagine anything that does it better, that propels us on the spiritual path than mediumship, because you can't deny that we are part of something greater when you read stories like this, and hopefully when everybody has their own experiences.
I just want to share this really quickly. You've probably noticed that one of the most fast-growing industries out there is the life coaching industry. I want to say something to you. Life coaching at its core, when you have the knowledge, the core competencies, the training, is sacred, powerful healing work. I got a certification and master's degree in coaching over 15 years ago, and it has changed my life, and it has changed hundreds of clients that I've worked with and the hundreds of students that I have taught. If you are feeling a soul nudge to do more to help others to unlock their potential, their highest potential, i.e. being your USU, and learn how to do that for yourself, I highly encourage you to consider my Intuitive Life Designer Coach Academy. It is a premier certification program. We're starting up again in January. Please go to juliereisler.com/certification. You can upload the program details. Let me know if you have questions. Everything is listed there. I would love to have you. If you're leaning in, if it's a soul yes, if you feel like you really want to do more to help people to stand into their highest calling, then I encourage you to look into the Intuitive Life Designer Coach program. You also can weave this in your work, in your industry now. I've had many lawyers and doctors and teachers, psychologists, other coaches that have done other programs, but felt they were missing the grounding, the integrity of the coaching program. You will have a practicum, mentor coaches, and we meet twice a week for 4 months with me as your coach and guide and mentor. And it would just be an honor to help you and to work with you on your journey to be your youest you as an intuitive life designer coach. Again, go to juliereisler.com/certification. And again, if it's a soul yes, I'd be honored to guide you in this next 12th cohort.
Yeah.
I think, this belief, it's very understandable, the belief that you're alone, that, that like, look, depending on religion and the way you're raised and stories and beliefs, all of these, and you talk about stories, to me, it's always like oh my gosh, yay, there's more evidence, like these stories and the experiences I've had with you and in general, it's like evidence. No, not only are we not alone, we are so loved, and our loved ones. And I mean, I know you've had so many experiences like this. I read the first one in here where the woman was her son. She lost her son who had committed suicide. And I read your book about Wolf, which we talked about as well. I mean, you have so many stories. Which one? It like opens up. It just opens you up. It opens me and anyone watching. It opens us up to, oh my gosh, remembering, this remembering or connecting. And that, I think, especially now during a time which can feel very like, what's happening in the world? There's a lot of unsettling things. And I know it's also what we're focusing on, but just to know, that is not the whole story.
That's what my guide said to me over a decade ago. What do you do when the world gets you down? You realize this is not the only world.
Right.
And this awareness makes all the difference in the world. Isn't that just so perfect?
I got chills, like massive chills as you said. Can we, and I really do feel this is really fun. I feel like we're flowing because I asked to be guided. So these questions are coming from wherever. Can we talk about this is not the only world? Can we go into what you mean by that? And yes. I'm hearing, let's do that.
This is a shared experience of human beings in physical bodies, this world. It appears solid, but quantum physics and science now absolutely has proven it is not solid. It appears that way because that is how we are perceiving it as conscious beings. But consciousness is not limited to one experience. It's limitless. We can alter our state of consciousness through meditation and other means and experience other realities that are just as real and sometimes just as solid. When we pass from these bodies, those in the spirit world have shared evidence to show that we really are talking to them. They tell us their world seems very solid to them. Those who have died and come back to talk about it, near-death experiences, describe other realities that were a shared consciousness experience with other beings. So they're all different levels of frequencies, bandwidths of consciousness, depending on where your focus is. Our brains in this reality keep us focused on this, what appears to be an objective physical world, but it is not only physical. It only appears that way. This body is an experience in consciousness. It appears solid, but you can look at it under a spectrum microscope and say, wait a minute, it's not solid. So what's really going on here? It's a combination of sensations and thoughts about it and feelings. It's happening in consciousness, not out there. That really will boggle the mind the farther you dive into that. But this is why spirit, higher consciousness, can manipulate experiences for each of us individually to really grab our attention. In that book, Wolf's Message, I was told there was a book I had to read in a bookstore. I got that message loud and clear. I walked into the bookstore, walked back to the metaphysical section, looked at the shelves, thinking, I wonder what book it is, and one of them appeared to move. Shocked the heck out of me. It moved half an inch to the left and moved back. I heard the pages rustle against the shelf, just like that. This was my first, quote, air quotes, hallucination ever. And yet that movement with my eyes open was real. I just was so shocked. I looked to the side and I said, what was that? What just happened? I looked back and Julie, it happened again. And then I looked at the book. I bought the book. It had an important message for the book I was writing or would write. There is no doubt in my mind that that was a manipulation of energy, information, of consciousness to get a message through to me. If somebody else had been standing next to me, would they have seen it move? Most likely not, because they didn't need that message. Does that mean the experience wasn't real? It was as real as this entire reality. Everything is real that can be created in consciousness. We just happen to be sharing certain experiences like you and I looking at each other right now. But we're not solid.
Yeah. It's like, that's so trippy. It's so cool.
Share another one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Keep sharing, please.
Just to show and open people's minds to the fact that this world is not as solid as it seems. We as a humanity and agreed upon experiences have agreed that it's going to be solid and certain things happen a certain way, but spirit can change it to get our attention. I was teaching that same class you attended in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I arrived at the hotel a night early, and I was always thinking about my next meal. I go down to the lobby at night, Friday night, to see what am I going to get for breakfast? What's going to be open? And I'm standing outside the Starbucks counter that's behind a gate, a locked sliding gate. And I'm saying, I wonder if they have anything I can eat. And I turn to leave, and there's this bowl of instant oatmeal packets on the counter. And one of the oatmeal bags slid down on its own. I heard it go, psh, and then, Julie, it slid back up. And I did one of these, did I just see that? And just then, a woman walked past me, and she looked at me, and she giggled. She said, I'm in your class tomorrow. And just then, in spirit, I heard someone giggle, and I knew it was a loved one of this woman, and she had made the oatmeal move.
Wow.
The next day in class, this woman came up to me. I didn't question her on the spot because I was still a little blown away by this. She came up to me standing in line of a bunch of people that wanted their books signed. When she got up to me, I said, because I couldn't feel who it was that did the oatmeal thing. I said, why are you in class? She said, I really want to learn to connect with my mother. And I said, by any chance, did your mother have a thing about oatmeal? Now, Julie, her response was so over the top. She went, so much so that everybody in the environs turned to look at her like, what? Now, if somebody asked me if my mother had a thing about oatmeal, I would have said, not really, or maybe she liked it. I wouldn't have gasped like that. It was clear something's going on. I said, why did you just react like that? She said, my mother loved oatmeal so much, she ate it every night, not every morning, every night for dinner. And it's the last thing she ate before she died.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, well, your mom wants you to know she's around. And she did it in a big way. And she said, and I said, may I share this with the class? I told her what happened with the oatmeal packet. She said, this would be just like my mother. She would want to be the center of attention and would do something for you to talk about her in front of the whole class. I eventually did a reading for that woman, brought through so much evidence from her mom. That was a setup. If you realize that we are all just beings of energy and information, patterns of consciousness, and that those who are no longer in a body can manipulate frequency, inputs coming into our field of awareness, they just have to alter the pixels of that oatmeal bag to make it appear to move. It's something I never would have even thought about before. But when you have that personal experience and you ask, how is that possible? It all comes down to nothing is really solid.
Mm. That is an important takeaway because our eyes, our human eyes, we see like my finger here and the computer screen that I'm seeing you through, and my mic, it feels, and I think it's so funny. I'm actually not a very literal person, but it's so, we're so conditioned, right, to see through our human eyes. And I'll just do another. I love all your books. I swear to God, my husband's like, you have a library of like Suzanne, like all the books. But I do. I read this every day. It's funny. Today actually was about this.
You're talking about my book, In the Silence. Yeah.
In the Silence, with the dove on it. It's funny. You had two, and I know you're working on another like this. And this one, I actually asked Spirit, because I was like, I don't have enough room to take all your books home. So I picked, and it said this one. And holy moly, this is just, it was talking today about that, like really seeing not from your eyes, not from your human eyes, but from a different place of spiritual perception from spirit. Yeah.
Well, In the Silence is like my other book, Love Beyond Words, is a book of 365 of the messages I get each day from Spirit. That one's chronologic. Those kind of messages go now into my Awakened Way app, which is free. And those messages come fresh from Spirit every day, and they have been coming since 2010. There are 6,000 of them in the app, and you can do like you do with the book. With the book, you can say, what do I need to know right now? And you can just open it at random, which is not really random, and get a beautiful answer. In the app, you can push this oracle button and say, give me the perfect message that will help me deal with this issue I'm dealing with in my life right now. Or what do I need to know from Spirit? And it comes up in the reply.
So fun. I think at some point, I want to do this with you live. I'm going to just not today. I'm going to open it and see what we get. Or is that okay?
Of course, but let's do it always with the awareness that we are not just doing this at the human level. We're prompted by Spirit. And when we set aside the ego, the other S you can use is sink into the universal core that unites me and you and all that is beyond the story. Sink there and ask, from this state, may the perfect message for us be revealed as Julie opens that book. That's when the magic happens.
I love that. That intention is everything, because I don't know if this is true, but it feels like because we have free will, I feel like it's, to me, sometimes it'll just be a simple, Spirit, your will, not mine, or let me merge with, which is kind of what you were saying earlier with the merging, like let this be for the highest good. This is like the Cliff Note version when I don't have time.
My lip just twitched from Spirit saying, this will be good.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that feels all right. We're going to go with it. Should we do it now? Because I just feel like inspired.
Yeah, because we just dropped into that space.
Okay.
So it'll be relevant.
All right. I'm going to.
And just be guided. Right now, know that you will tap into the perfect, relevant message. There you go.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. This is August 11th. Miracles all around.
That's right there is good.
I actually don't need to say any more.
Right. Exactly.
That's enough. Everyone, we're done. Miracles are all around. Period.
Well, they happen. A miracle, my definition, spiritual definition of a miracle, is when we become aware that this is not the only reality. When the veil parts enough to show us we're connected to something greater. So it can be a little thing like a sign or a synchronicity or the perfect title of a message. That's a miracle. Or it could be something huge that we consider like that's not possible in this physical world. Just the veil parts to say anything is possible.
It's so beautiful. Wow, this is so fun with you because I'm literally I feel like I'm on a ride with VR, virtual reality. Like I'm getting buzzing, my head is tingling, whatever we're doing. Woo! I have a feeling others are just too. So fun. All right, I'm going to read. So August 11th, miracles are all around. Miracles are all around you when you have eyes to see and ears to hear. Miracles, big and small, are signs of the interaction of two worlds, two realities. Oh my goodness.
Love spirit. It just never fails.
I know.
And
It never.
this happened again because we shifted with intention before we did this. We didn't just open the book from the human level. We trusted, we expanded, we connected.
I feel like I just want to cry because it literally is saying what we've been talking about. And
of course it is.
I'll just be vulnerable. Like, it's been on my heart. I know with yours too. I feel so moved to help all of us release the heaviness, the ego, the heaviness that's not true, and to shine the light that is true. And I'm like, I'm just so grateful because as I'll finish reading in a moment, this is what we are here to talk about. This is it. This is it. When you have faith, or better yet, the knowingness that other dimensions exist beyond your own, miracles become the norm. Still, you celebrate them as we do also to see that you are paying attention. Pay attention. The signs are all around you. A miracle is not magic, but a mirror of the state of awareness in which you find yourself. Ask to behold miracles in your life, and they will become the norm, a reflection of the openness of your mind and spirit. Okay.
And what I hope people will understand is that if you were to randomly right now just open other places in the book, there would be many messages that are not relevant to our discussion now. There are many that are. That one was perfect.
It was like, we talked about other worlds. I mean, it just, I think, and what it even said is, the remembrance, because I know others here, I come from also a background in the 12-step world where we talk about one day at a time and remembering, it's a daily thing to connect in. It's a moment I don't take it for granted, I guess I should say, and to really be thankful we can do that and that this is possible. Anything is possible. And it really, I love that miracles are all around, and that no miracle is too small. No miracle is too small. We all can do that. We can all tune in.
And I just made a note as you were speaking, because I didn't want to miss this really big point. I commend you for being vulnerable right there and trusting. You let your trust, your faith and spirit, they talked about faith in that message, override what I know happened to you. I felt it too. It happens every time I do a reading. It's ego programming. That little moment where you said, I really want to do this. I really want to open the book, but what if we don't get a good one? What if it's not relevant? I really know this is real, but what if? That's part of the left brain's programming to do that. As a medium, I've learned to say, oh, that's the program. I know this is real. I know when I set aside that voice and trust, the miracles happen. So I knew it. I felt it in you. Like, should we really do it now? But what if? And we both trusted, and the miracle happened.
Yeah. Amazing. And I'll share, I think, another miracle that might have just happened in a split second. This is really interesting. I don't even know if you realize this. You just held something up. Now, I may not have seen it right. Did that have anchors on it, or did I make that up? Oh my God.
Why?
Oh my God.
Is that a sign for you today?
Yeah. So people listening, I've talked about this. Oh my gosh. Now I'm like sweating. I have set signs with my grandfather, and the first one that came to me was a blue anchor. It's the weirdest. I was named after him. People, like, seriously, I talk about this all the time. We've talked about signs here, and I have random, a zebra, green apples, but blue anchor came first, and you held that for 1 second. You didn't mean to, but something said, pay attention. And so this is such a beautiful real time. What's happening?
This is it. When is this show going to air?
Yet to be decided, because it's yet to be. I'm thinking in the beginning of the new year. Yeah.
Okay. All soon. Right. Because I'm just about to start a class this week, actually, with the Shift Network about how mediumship leads to greater flow in your moment by moment life. And how when you get in a greater flow moment by moment, that improves your mediumship. It's this do loop. This is part of the teaching all the time, but I'm living this, and you and I just are showing an example of this. You noticed, you acted on that, you paid attention, it provided your beautiful sign that reinforces the fact that you know you're connected with your grandfather. It's just the way your whole life moves, not just when you're in the flow like we are right now.
Yeah, I'm like smiling on the inside, and I feel his winking. I can't explain it. I just feel this wink, this like glimmer, and
you're connected heart to heart, soul to soul. He's right here.
Yeah, I mean, and that was if anyone's watching this, that was a split set. I mean, you didn't mean to pull that up. I can tell you right now.
Not at all. That was a spirit thing too, right? Everything's connected. That's so cool.
That is so cool. This is so fun, Suzanne. I did set the intention. I just knew it was going to be fun. And I think that's the other thing I know for many of us, and goodness, you with what you used to do, I consider myself a recovering overachiever. You really the role.
I haven't recovered from that yet.
You're like, actually, yeah, still in it. But, it takes something to sort of shift, as you talked about, from the left brain trying to figure it out. What I've been finding, what we're doing here, anyone can do this, right, is the flowing and the not knowing and the like, oh my gosh, I just got did you have a blue anger? There's something it really makes life, it feels miraculous and very mystical and magical for me that way.
Could we talk about that term you just used, overachiever? There's so much in life that has a both and component once you get on this path.
Yes.
And we judge things. Could overachieving be both a blessing and a not so great thing?
Love it.
I'm choosing my words very carefully there.
Yes.
Overachieving can be propelled by the ego's need to receive love and appreciation.
Yes.
But I've recently taken on and I'm signing a new book contract, but I'm also preparing for a Mediterranean cruise that I'm leading for anybody who wants to go with me, the Awake and Wake cruise in March and April. You're going? Oh,
I'm just saying I want to go. I don't know yet, but
page on the featured events. But that's a lot to prepare for 14 hours of gathering and workshop with people. I have this new course coming up and a documentary coming out, and I'm taking on a new book. Is that overachieving? I've asked Spirit, really? This is a lot, and they show me when you surrender to them, it will just flow. If you take on a lot of tasks for the reason of simply being spirit and expression and creating, you'll know if you're taking it on for that reason or because I just don't feel I'm doing enough, I have to be loved more. There's a huge difference. So right now I'm overachieving. It's like more than what I expected to take on, but it's helpful and it's fun. It's so exciting. It's my passion. It's coming from the soul. So everybody listening, are you stressed because you've taken on something for the wrong reason? Could you reframe what you're involved in? Is it work or is it creation? If it's not the latter, and you see that you did it for another reason, lighten the load somehow. If you're helping others, it's of service, and you find great joy in it, then overachieving is awesome.
I am obsessed. I love what you just said. And it really gets to, it's like the two choices. Am I in ego? Am I needing? And then, of course, I do a lot with forgiveness practices. Forgive yourself. It's okay. Just notice. I think that's what I'm really hearing. If you're striving because you need the love and attention and appreciation, that's where we go to love, forgiveness, or and not, I'm experiencing it in the way that I'm experiencing it, but very similar when it comes from your soul's connection to spirit, to purpose. It's joyful. It's flowing.
You came here to do this. You can't not do this.
Yes.
You're always balancing it with your human relationships with others. This is always my greatest challenge. How do I not work so much, create so much that my husband suffers or our relationship suffers. So
Yeah.
life gives us little fail safes and tests.
Thank you for explaining that distinction. I think that's really, it's delicious and important because I have a feel, like attracts like, and I know those that are tuning in, want to shine and make an impact in the world and be of service. I know that.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to look at it because it's okay. I'm obsessed with what I'm doing. I'm in love with it. I feel like, and it keeps opening up. And like you're saying, so it could look like overachiever from the ego standpoint. That's where we want to, I guess, really tune into how you feel too. Like the fun and the joy as you're speaking, I can just feel it feels light, even though you just said like 5 things that you're doing. That's a lot. It felt light as you were speaking about it. And so there was that through line with spirit versus the egoic, I'm not worthy, I need to prove, which is very different.
Yeah. Spirit often says, what's your motive? It's a great test. What's your motive? And then when you feel a lot that you've taken on, turn it over to spirit.
Yeah.
And they'll just pace you, tell you what project to work on now and next. And when you surrender that to them, these projects really will flow and will be less work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I'm not ready to wrap yet, but I know we're going to at some point have to land the plane. And I always love talking to you, Suzanne. This is just joyful. So joyful. I know that for you, one of the main guides you connect to is Sanaya.
Mm-hmm.
And curious if you can share a little bit about what that feels like, what that experience is like. And do we all have a Sanaya that we're connecting with, or is it our higher self? I know I'm going into the weeds here, so I'll just give it to you.
I'll turn it over to them to answer that because it's a very, let me get the right word. It's an interesting explanation. Sanaya told me when they first appeared to me in 2010 that they are a collective consciousness of guides. I've only identified a handful of them. They change for what is needed in the moment, and as I grow and I'm able to tune into different ones of them. The channeler Paul Selig once said, "Your guides are who you become when you realize who you are." We are spirit with a capital S expressing itself through us and our stories and our bodies. So are our guides. Our guides are spirit expressing themselves as individual aspects of consciousness. Your loved ones who have passed are spirit and expression, expressing themselves as your loved ones' stories still going on across the veil. It's all God. It's all spirit. It's all consciousness with a capital C. But we like to make patterns of these individual thought forms that are also people or guides. So everybody can tap into any aspect of consciousness, and we can give them names or not. The higher self is the energy information pattern that is creating your experience in a body right now. Your experience in a body is not the entirety of this soul. It's one pattern within it. The higher self is the rest of that great field of energy information that's feeding that experience. So it has a higher perspective than you in a body, and it's advising you. So we can tap into our own higher self as a sentient, wise being that doesn't have a body. We can tap into any wise being and it will guide us. It's all spirit. How's that?
Beautiful. And I felt it. I felt this.
And so we don't have to give it names.
Yeah.
Sanaya is a particular name to the frequencies I tune into. You ask your guides, what shall I call you? Either individual or as a group, and they'll give you an appropriate name for your group. Sanaya just happens to mean, I found out later, one worth knowing, and that's spirit.
Oh.
It also means flash of lightning, which is how my stepdaughter and wolf were killed. A big part of my journey. Wow.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
You must have said it and it flew over my
Oh,
head.
I haven't shared it far and wide. It was something I learned years after Sanaya gave me that name, and it really stopped me in my tracks. I'm on this path because my stepdaughter was struck and killed by lightning.
Yeah.
I wrote a book about a young man named Wolf, and there's going to be a documentary very soon about his story, and he was struck and killed by lightning, and my guides give me a name that means flash of lightning.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
just one of those miracles, right?
We're
The
back to
veil
Amir.
parts.
Yes. Beautiful. Wow. I even just, again, chills again. I feel like I'm like in a cold plunge. I'm in a hot room in this interview. Just so many chills. You know, it's fascinating to me. I love what you said, to ask. We get to ask, like, we all can do this. What do they want to be called, or does it want to be called? And how incredible do you feel your stepdaughter and Wolf? It almost, to me, feels like they would be part of this collective, or they're there also. Do you feel them with you?
I don't feel that I work with them daily anymore. I know they're here and helping and guiding. Wolf and a young man named Dakota, the documentary producer's dad, are absolutely guiding this documentary. So we're hearing from them a bit. My stepdaughter, Susan, I tune into her occasionally, but she's shown me in beautiful ways. She's always connected, looking in on me even when I don't know about it, as are everyone's loved ones. Every time I do a reading, Julie, I ask the loved ones when they say, "Hey, let them know I'm still here. I'm around anytime they need me." I say, "Prove it. What have they done recently?" And they give me a current event, and it's really cool.
That's so cool. So cool. Miracles all around.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is the page. That's what we're talking about. Before we close, I always like to ask if there either is, well, in this case, geez, I usually say, is there a message or something a question I didn't ask you, or something intuitively? It's kind of funny because that is literally what we're talking about.
That's the
Oh,
message
there we go.
I just took a sip of water and the guide said, "That's the message you must leave everyone with." And it's what they end every one of my daily messages and the Wake and Wake app messages with. You are so very loved. Why? Because when we fall in love with someone, all we focus on is the connection. All we're aware of is, oh my God, I'm like one being with you. You are my heart. I am whole with you. That's what we call love. Divine love never changes, is always that wholeness. We are eternally connected with each other and all that is as expressions of God. That's love. And because of that lack of separation, it can be no other way that we are loved. We do stupid things to find love, to be loved, when it's right here, our very essence. This is what the Awake and Wake path is about. This is what mediumship has shown me. This is what I want to shout from the rooftops. We are so cared for because God is living through us and loves itself through us. Loved us so much that loves life so much that created us to experience more of life through us. We are both loved and love itself. I know that feels delicious to people and they say, "I want that." It's because you already have it. That is a natural urge within you that propels you to learn more, to find out more, to acknowledge and understand you're already love in full expression. LIFE. And life, love in full expression, is eternal. You may want off the planet at times because life in human form, love in full expression in the human body, is hard, is chaotic. But when you learn to bless me, set aside the focus that this life is the only one and make the shift to higher frequencies and observe your life from that perspective and experience life outside space and time, then you realize why we come back to the planet, to experience the fullness of it, all of it, the ups and downs. I have a sign right up here on my wall. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. Surfing is fun. Not always. You get wiped out sometimes. But we're here to learn to be master surfers.
Beautiful.
That was
Beautiful.
a lot.
I love it. I just saw all of us with our surfboards, like at the, I'm terrible surfing. Love that analogy. Beautiful. Suzanne, thank you. That reminder that we are also very loved. I think it would change the nature of our minds and our reality if we really, really paused each moment and morning and really felt that. Yeah, that's it. That's where the miracles come from. Oh my gosh. Thank you. This was just beyond joyful to flow.
Beautiful. We were in flow, and you brought out some really great moments, and I appreciate that we got into sync there. It was beautiful and an example of the flow. So, yeah, and I hope that people felt that transmission of energy from higher consciousness and feel somehow uplifted and say, what is that? That's what happens when you're on this path and you open yourself to raising your vibe.
Yeah. And it's here for everyone. I think it's so important. There's no levels or, you don't have to like get into a certain school and take the SATs for this. Like it's not like that at all. It's, and you gave so many great tools and resources. Thank you for being such an inspiration and such a resource of remembrance of spirit, of light. It's just a gift to be in your presence and to share you.
Well, thank you. I love your title, The Youest You. All we can do is be the youest you that we are. We're here to live our stories out, and when we make choices aligned with love, then the soul can shine through, and that's why we're here.
Yeah, our weest we. That's what I think.
That.
That's the plural. I thank you. And I want to say on behalf of both of us, thank you to our beautiful listeners and audience. We love you and thank you, and leave comments, questions. We respond to everything, and just may you remember you're so loved and miracles are all around. August 11th in the silence, go find it. And of course, your mediumship book and all of your books, Suzanne. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.